Oh, hold on, there we go.
Yes. Anyway, now that we're back taping again, we have Dr. Vicki Frohne,
Thank you.
savior of the lab. I'm still Caroline Hicks-Ellwood, and Kenneth Hartman, and Chris Olson, the author of one of my favorite papers on this place.
When I started working at the lab, it said, physics graduates who now work at Fermi Lab, and their names and that, and reported to the professor of history had put a little map, because his office was right next to Dr. Swallow's office, a little map of Fermi Lab that says, Forest College history majors who've gotten a job at Fermi Lab.
Oh, that's right. I gave her that blueprint, and that was in the hallway of the Science Center for a long time. It was a big map of Fermi Lab, and where all the Oldhurst graduates were at the lab, who wrote that on there.
I think it's outstanding how many of you have ended up in Fermi
There
Lab.
were a couple more.
I mean, it's not because you're just local. They can have anybody they want, and they want you guys.
Yeah, there are two more. One is a current operator, and the other now works in the RF group. Rachel Pfaff was biology. And, and so she's now in the RF group, and Dennis Barat is the...
Yeah, they didn't work down here.
No, not at all.
They were Oldhurst grads.
No, because Dennis is sort of the opinions that why bother? It's old. You can't do anything. You can't do any high energy stuff. That I walk away.
I mean,
It's crap.
All the elements are here. You can do perfectly good physics with this.
And if I can do these little projects, it's a low energy machine, yes, but for
Chris,
electronics.
you have a unique talent, and it is becoming more unique than ever. And I have come to appreciate this working with
You're
science
teaching
majors
education
at Notre
majors.
Dame. No, I'm also teaching at Notre Dame.
Yes, that's true.
And the answer to how it works, I'm sorry guys, is not tap the screen. But that's the only answer you get, because they don't have the concept that there's anything inside that phone besides a battery. And the skills for making stuff work that you have are not that common anymore.
well, maybe we should look at it. We were saying it's so, you and Sawyer were saying that kids nowadays just aren't like us. But I don't think that's true. Maybe it's because it was here that we ended up here.
Well, there's part of it. I think we learn a lot from each other, more so than even the faculty.
One thing I loved about your paper was the wrap up at the end, which I totally agree with, and I intend to play off of that a lot for the book, is that it's the one odd thing that nobody's really brought forth before is that people like us love this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a piece of equipment that we played with. We love this thing.
When they got rid of the birthday party and now have it as the art space celebration, I don't think they realized how many people they pissed off. There are people who just stopped coming.
And the vacuum will die if we don't have it on its birthday.
Well, yes and no, because looking at it, the birthday parties were starting to get a bit thin because people had moved on.
Yes, and we'll move away.
And moved away.
I mean, I wouldn't be here, but...
And the regulars who were coming were me and Arlene and Craig Hunter, and Eric Camp would come, but I haven't seen him in several years. And
He was a neat guy. Wow. I forgot about Eric Camp.
Eric Camp was in my class.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And he was very, very bright, but really marched to the tune of his own drummer. And he went into the Navy for a year or two, see if he could hone his people skills, which were sorely lacking. But he would sit in class in an 8 a.m. class and eat his lunch.
Because he's been up since 4.
I don't know. He would He wasn't into studying, but he did well on his exams. He didn't do his homework particularly. But-
He had a knack for electronics.
Oh, he had a big, and he was studying it on his own, and we laughed at him for building circuits on popsicle sticks and stuff. But dang, I've taken a page from Eric's book, because
Who could afford purple?
for some of the stuff I teach with for class sets, it's like I'm building circuits now on these wood slats from Jericho. And, you know, it works okay. It's cheap, I can do that. Because we don't have a lot of money to build stuff out of, but we can do that. And he was trying to use flip-flops and chips and build a computer and.
What was the other thing about this lab? Is that it taught you to make do.
Yes.
And there was a lot of, we have, you know, if you needed something, those shelves up there are full of stuff you can use. But they're also, you know, when Vicky started, they were 20 years out of date. So you gotta learn how to use them. Along with that digital.
We do it, and we did it all without computers.
Yeah.
At first, we didn't want a computer in here because we were afraid
You're afraid
that
of it.
the high voltage sparks would kill the computer.
Yeah, turns out not, but.
One of the pictures I had, we had a trash 80 up there or something.
There was something up there, old IBM.
I think we finally got a 286 or something like that, but
Yeah, I tried
we
using
never
it.
had an internet connection in here.
Well, the internet didn't exist up
No, it
until the
didn't.
time I was graduating.
Yeah,
It was all dial-up.
so I think if we had had money to work with, we would have been buying equipment that could take data and interface to the computer.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, I have hope for the youth of today, mostly because of the maker movement. You've got people who are doing 3D printing. You've got people who are using Arduino to do almost everything. People have automated their homes. You know, 15-year-olds have automated their homes, learning programming and stuffing these boards together and implementing them. Can you imagine a DAC engine we could make for this thing? We have somebody 3D print a sample changer, have Arduino, just RF control everything in the gondola.
We thought about having wireless control, but it was modifying the TV remote control to.
Yeah, I was
and
using
we never got to control this in the gondola, but we never got very far with it. Because we think,
You had 6 different ones, one for each knob.
well, we knew which channel, but we didn't have the technology or the know-how to pull something like that off.
Yeah.
And, you know, my idea was to cannibalize a VCR because it had a remote control and.
Oh, yeah, did you
Now it's here
have the
to
heads
do
and everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? You have to make do. You learn a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yes, you do, and we had, Jim Volk knew how to use a machine shop, so that's when I learned lathe, sort of, but enough.
Sorry, Jim.
So but I learned lathe and drill press. We didn't use the mill here. I learned that at Kansas State because I took a grad student 2-week course with machinists.
That was something else you said in the paper, which I thought was very ironic, that Allison had forced the students that wanted to come work on the accelerator to first learn plumbing and then, not electronics, but be an electrician.
Yeah.
And then you could maybe come in and work on his machine, but it was the same thing here. Vicki had to hang out and paint until she got into the vacuum systems. My job was to work in the machine shop, putting holes in sheet metal to make,
Yeah, and you learn things, you learn them fast by doing. I wish I could give the students I work with now a bit more experience. Oh, must be spring. The flies are coming out. Wonderful.
When I was here. No, that was a duck.
Yeah, well, anyway, I was about to say, I wish I could get students making stuff, but I don't have the facilities where I am. You need what we had here. You need a space where you can make noise and make a mess
oh yeah.
and make a stink. You can
Flame
paint
chamber
stuff,
gardens.
and you've got tools, and junk to work with.
Well, actually, part of the reason that we had all that stuff was the colonel and his government surplus habit. Did you, Sawyer told me this, did you know he actually was trying to talk the administration into taking a Coast Guard cutter?
Yes, I have heard that story.
The government surplus.
Yeah,
cutter.
the colonel, Dr. Holliday, he was trying to get a government surplus Coast Guard cutter for the college.
You know, of
And
course
he
I forget,
almost
but
did it.
biology would
And
like it.
yeah, the idea was to do environmental science on Lake Michigan.
Could you imagine that?
Every
college
college
should
And,
have one.
and every
got
college should
everything
have.
else.
And then there was the time he saw telegraph keys on the surplus list.
You got 2,000
And-
telegraph keys.
No, what happened was, now telegraph keys are useful for switches in the introductory labs. If you had a couple dozen of those, that'd be great. Well, the surplus office said, no, we'll send all 5,000. Okay, now while they're waiting for these, this box car appears right at the back of the lab on the siding, which was like 8 feet outside of our door. And Sawyer goes to into Holliday's office, and says, now you've done it. What? Well, it turns out the boxcar actually had a load of lumber for Alexander Lumber, which was a little further down the tracks. Eventually the telegraph keys in a box about 6 inches on a side. It wasn't this kind of telegraph key for the labs to be switches. It was this kind of key to open the boxes of telephone poles.
5,000 key blanks.
And then there was...
So you had all the freshmen bend the keys up a little bit so they could screw them to boards using the switches.
No, I don't know what happened to those. I never saw it.
I just remember.
I guess once he sent El Thomas and Dan Rubino out to a gun sight manufacturing company that was going out of business.
Wow, good
And
optics.
that's what they came back with. They filled the optics lab, and we had optical flats that were weird shape, but they're optical
But
flats.
they're flat, yeah.
And we had, all kinds of lenses and
That's
just,
cool.
and some of that stuff was still here.
Some of the stuff is probably still.
Like in the
It's probably
1990s
still
at least,
there.
yeah.
Volk and I used to sit in the evening sometime with the book of government surplus. Let's see, it's Christmas time, what do we want? It's just, that's how
I went with Volk once to the depot in the F-600, to the government surplus depot, and we came back with rat cages for the biology department.
Is that how we ended up with the rats?
No, the room which is now right underneath the astronomy dome, observatory dome at the science center, that was the rat room. And it was a room for animals for the biology department.
Yeah.
Okay, but Sawyer was teaching this course in biological electron microscopy.
Yeah.
And the physics department was taking care of some rats up there
Okay.
for the course. And I got the job for a bit. Well, these poor rats, they were in the dark all the time, and they were in the cages all the time, and they were starving and eating their young. It wasn't good.
Is that why we had that 50 pounds of carcinogenic rat food in the Beljar room?
Possibly.
Oh,
I remember
big
somebody-
bags of caution carcinogenic rat food.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, that's right, yeah, the cause, yeah, okay. But all I
It
know
doesn't
is
take
that all of a
much.
sudden,
I wonder what's in it.
Vulcan Poprosky showed up with this cage
But
with two rats.
eventually they'd just go to a pet store and ask, do you guys have an old mouse? And pick the oldest animal they had.
But remember when we had the mice here, the rats here? They were like shell-shocked from all the tank sparks.
We
You'd
had-
drop a book or something and they...
I think Donna managed to catch one in here, a mouse, and it was sort of like a pet here. for a
Somebody
while.
went up and liberated a cage with a pair of rats in it from bio and filed it under R for rat in the physics storeroom. And then we figured they were too lonely there, so we brought them down here. And they were sitting near the stairwell. And
Yeah. I think I did something like that with my PhD thesis too. We had to We had, no, we had put a little bit of a vertical bend on the beam, and we had these ceramic bricks from an ion pump.
Yeah.
So we just taped them to the beam line,
Yeah,
strategic place, and it was fine.
it works.
You know, put two in the magnet, just slide it up and slide it back. Yeah.
You're doing, you do that formula, you're doing horrible things to the beam structure, but this machine, you don't care. It's all brute force. Oh, yeah. No,
It's a good machine.
I was so beaten into submission, I still can't just walk up to it and touch it. It's like, you wait and see if the hair on your arm starts to
Wait and see if there's any electrical charge there.
I am probably the youngest person, at least in this country, because I can't speak for Russia, to have tuned beam using the simulation of the back of your eyeball.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a reason why you don't want to do
Do
that.
that.
There's a reason why they always wear glasses, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's...
I didn't do it for very long, it's like, it works! Cornell, try this.
The
No!
deputy department head at Purdue was one of these guys who had done that as a grad student. He had,
We just
Yeah.
pick which eye you don't want to
Won't
use
use
anymore.
anymore.
yeah, you get cataracts from that.
Well, just
Well,
once.
this is 350,000 volt beam.
You know,
It's like a head x-ray. I've had lots of those. You stop. So I started making zinc sulfide targets in here, getting a headache. The whole place smells like a banana candy factory. There's a paint on there.
Yeah, then I learned another recipe, which is just styrofoam peanuts dissolved in acetone.
Cool. I
And
hadn't thought of
you just dissolve as many styrofoam peanuts as you can, but it's kind of pasty and
Yeah.
it gives you a lumpy screen. It wasn't as nice as the nitrocellulose and
Yeah.
acetate ones.
Yeah. Knowing what I know now, I would have used collodion. Volts to ground, everything. And we think that the arcing mirror downstairs was the secondary. It just makes me sad.
Yes, and then you put a neon sign transformer on it, and we got the required amount of high voltage up at the top. And
Yeah, so it was 15,000 in, and we got 60 up top. So which, it works.
It
The
works.
science is sound. Yeah, 300 kV divided by 6 equals 50 kV transformer output. So, and it's 12 milliamp in the machine. This is Vicky's handwriting, and I can't be.
yeah, I think I was here, but I tell you, I wouldn't have been crazy enough to try something like that. I got to hand out to Chris.
Yeah, we got 40 to 60 kV.
Yeah.
The stack, we didn't shorten any stacks to see what it was, yeah.
Wow. That's-
And when
Well,
was that?
it's just resting again.
62903.
03?
Yeah.
12 years, not as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
No.
It's time. We'll just attract some new students that
I
want
would,
to know.
I would happily come by occasionally just to check if they want to keep the vacuum system going.
Actually, Tony said he'd consider coming by in the summer or something once in a while if anything got going again.
Well, what I found working with students every weekend is that you make progress very slowly. Of course, we had a lot to do just to put the lab back together.
Right.
Well, don't forget, we kept having to go through all that garbage from the scene shop to take, kept coming
No,
over.
right, too, they emptied out the scene
Yeah,
shop and we
yeah.
had to sort through all
For like
that.
the first, 2.5, 3 years, we were taking stuff apart so we couldn't get anything done around here.
Yeah,
So,
that's
That
true,
was-
they emptied out the scene shop and dump it all in here and
Yeah.
we were sorting through that.
I mean, that was the first sort, is what to put over the scene shop that we didn't think we'd ever need, but,
No, there was some interesting stuff in that
oh,
scene
I'm
shop.
sure.
You should have a chapter 2 of extracurricular activity that went here. Not the naughty stuff, but this lab always offered a certain autonomy to the people who worked here.
Oh, yeah.
And you could do other things, like microscopy, which are still physics related, but
Well,
Oh,
the
yeah.
electron microscopy, yeah, that was more at the Science Center, but we had pretty much complete freedom to tinker here,
Yeah.
except when it came to blowing up garbage cans. That-
I was gonna
that
mention the
was
flame
over
tamer
top.
test.
Yes, the flame
Which-
tamer test.
Which works.
She covered that already.
Excellent.
I was here
Were you?
somewhere. I've got pictures of
Yeah,
it.
she was here, I was here for that.
Cool, I didn't,
There was
I
Flame Tamer 1, and there was Flame Tamer 2.
built a liquid fuel rocket engine.
Well, you know, this, you heard, it started because we were polishing the
Yeah.
machine, right? So you had this whole thing full of acetone soap paper towels, and we
I
said,
wonder if it works.
I wonder if it works.
They were new garbage cans. And the thing is, Sawyer's house was like a block away, but he could see the red light over the door from his bedroom
Yeah.
window.
Oh, they're running, all right, yeah.
Yeah, and he would do that. And sometimes, but we had these explosions out in the parking lot. And the first one, I think it sent the lid to the garbage can up over the roof of the lab.
Yeah, it worked.
Well, you know, as high as the roof of the lab.
I think Flame Tamer 2 landed on the roof of the lab. That was.
Well, that's when you're going for distance. Let's try to make this better.
Yes.
Yeah, but then the neighbors, then Sawyer eventually told Volk, it says, I don't know what you're doing, I don't want to know what you're doing, but don't do it anymore.
Well, you know, if old towels did pretty well, what would it do with a fresh soaking?
Yeah.
And some of it, I think, because we haven't really been thinking about this place for a long time, as you think about it, then the memories start to surface again.
Yeah, we shouldn't wander around, say, oh, I remember what we did this, you know. I don't know what you're saying to me.
Yes, when I was at Kansas State, they had this huge accelerator lab for atomic physics, very well known. And I was bemoaning to my advisor that the physics majors weren't involved. And he said, what do you mean so-and-so's involved? He's doing research. I said, great, that's one. What about the other 40? And he went, oh.
Yeah.
And so he started, I'll give the guy credit, he organized a informal meeting at his house, and they talked about black holes or something, and invited the grad students and the undergrads there, and had refreshments, and that was very nice of him. But it's true that most of the physics majors really weren't involved in anything. Now, the ones that were teaching, had TA responsibilities, had a desk and an office, but one of the most valuable things that I think we had here was a place to hang our hat and coat.
Yep.
And it sounds
It was
simple. It made it feel like it was ours. It means that
It
we
was
could.
ours,
It
everybody else
was.
was afraid to come.
Well, the lab was, but even, I'm thinking of the science center though,
Yeah.
is that we had keys to the labs. We could come into the building,
Yep. Any hour of the
The
day.
day
or
and
We
night.
night.
did.
and we did.
Yes, we did.
But we could come into the building, and when we were in the building to take classes,
Oh,
we could go to the lab, and we could go downstairs to the science center, maybe the optics lab, we kind of took that over, and we had a coat rack, and we could leave our books, and we didn't have to carry all of our stuff everywhere all day long.
Yep.
And when we were in the building, we were in the building, as opposed to most students who have to carry their backpacks and hats and coats with them everywhere they go when they're in the building to take classes.
We also had the respect of the professors.
Yes, we did.
Well, I think you earned that, though. I mean, they don't just let just anybody in here, well, except for me, but.
They
Yeah.
trusted me, they knew I wasn't gonna kill myself with it or other people.
you said
Or make
take
something
it-
nefarious using it.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna
Well,
take it down to the lab, and they figure if we kill ourselves down here, it
Yeah.
makes such a mess.
Yeah, although,
I put a jar of precursor on the set.
yeah, I look back at our experiences though, and I do look back on, I look at doing it now. And it's a little bit harder because the litigation is more severe, there's a certain,
There is a paranoia among authority figures that kids doing science are going to do something bad.
No, it's not that. It's the paranoia about the EPA coming in and shutting the place down because you don't have the right chemical documentation.
But we did when I was here. I had the MSDS for everything in here in a binder because we were supposed to.
And we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even
That was
so,
never a problem.
yeah.
People might have been afraid of it, but working in physical plant, every building we walked into had MSDS.
Yes.
I thought, why don't we have this for the lab? I went to Dr. Swallow, I said, can I do this? He said, sure. And I got the CD, printed everything out, because back then everything was on CD. Printed it all out, put it in a binder for upstairs. We were covered. It annoys me.
And I look at the science kits that are for sale now, and they're just not very good. There's not that much science in them.
No, it's like, buy a 2-liter bottle of soda and put a mint into it.
That is interesting.
Yes, it teaches you about supercavitation.
Dan Johnson and Roger Zimmerman and Greg Bach.
Mm-hmm.
Still remember all these people, that's scary.
Yeah, I think I worked with all of them.
Yeah, I know you did. I know you did.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's something that,
And even all these years later, we come back here just to be near it, and,
Right.
and even if it's not running.
and you can't say that about very many other places.
I mean, you know, do you miss your Bunsen burner? Or you miss the optics lab? I do miss the optics lab a little
We
bit.
had a
I
lot
was
of fun in the optics
optics
lab
lab.
too. Because that was, well, the labs in the science center, we use those as home base. Do you remember we had a faculty office for a student lounge in between
Yeah.
Sawyer's and Holiday's offices? That was cool.
But-
And then, and Holiday, who was just very stern and very straight-laced and ramrod straight, military colonel, he comes into the student lounge one day and he just asks, what's AVI? We're like, huh, what? What's AVI? I don't know. He says, the center of gravity. Last thing we expected out of him was to tell a joke like that.
I told you that my fellow classmates were talking to me in the hallway down in the science center, and they said, Holloway's so strict, he's so straight, he has no sense of humor at all. I said, he does too, he's a big teddy bear. And we turned the corner and he was standing there looking at me, and he got this one half a smile just over here and said,
But he was tough too. I remember one day, I wasn't in the class, I think this was during my freshman year, and he had had major surgery on Friday, and he was teaching his modern physics class on Monday. And I think Volk and Kaprowski were in the class, like only 3 or 4 students in the class, and they said he was leaning against the board a lot, but he was upright and he was teaching. He was a tough bird.
I love that guy. I still got his copy of Sears and Zemansky. I don't know why, but I still have it. Any last words?
As we think of things, we'll have to.
You know, if nothing else,
Give it
all
to
these
you.
verbal histories will make a beautiful DVD we can, at least we can enjoy.
Yeah.
So I have to, I'm playing around with different Skype recorders. Some of them, the audio gets off track from the video, but I'll figure out one that works, and then we'll have stuff.
Well, and we can also commit things to letters of the alphabet on a keyboard too.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes if we think of stories, we can email them in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be game. I don't know. Well, I do know that I have commencement around May 8th, and then I have to start teaching this 3-week intensive astronomy course.
Sounds like fun.
And then I'll be on shift June 5th through the next 7 days through 12th or something like that. But then my sister goes from here to Indiana at some point, and I don't know what
Well,
after
it's
that.
all a
but
little bit far off.
It's a little bit
Between
far off.
now and summer, we can do a lot on Dropbox and
Yeah.